This is Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. I have made 2 videos about Mr. Yang, one on his flagship policy, the Freedom Dividend, and one about his performance in the first presidential debate. And the reception towards these videos has been pretty good. Stop with this anti-Yang propaganda. Be an impartial news source. You are misleading Americans about Yang. Don't do this. You are doing a disservice to humanity. Please do more research on Yang before you spread rumors. This is very upsetting. This video tries so hard to make Andrew Yang look bad but fails. The host is a racist obviously, and not very intelligent. Remember folks, if you don't agree with someone, just call him a racist. It's easier than having a legitimate argument. In the first Democratic presidential debate, Andrew Yang was asked about his spin on universal basic income, aka the Freedom Dividend, which, as you may know, would give every US citizen over the age of 18 $1,000 a month.
I think that's like $3.2 trillion a year. How would you do that? Sorry? How would you do that?
In my previous video, I pointed out that Yang did not answer the question that was asked, which was, where are you going to get the money to pay for the Freedom Dividend's $3.2 trillion price tag? Actually, the real cost of it would be about $1.7 trillion. Oh good! I was worried about the high cost. $1.7 trillion a year is peanuts compared to $3.2 trillion. Thanks for putting my mind at ease. It's not going to cost $3.2 trillion, it costs $2.2 trillion. Wait, I thought it was $1.7 trillion. You are very wrong about the cost. The true cost is $1.8 trillion per year, not 3. Okay. It's not even $3.2 trillion as cost. Poorly researched. So if the cost isn't $3.2 trillion, why didn't Yang dispute this in his response? How is that my fault? So enough with the comments for now. Let's take a look at how Yang performed during the second debate, starting with his opening statement.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month. I know this may sound like a gimmick, but this is a deeply American idea, from Thomas Paine to Martin Luther King to today.
First off, Martin Luther King Jr. was not for universal basic income, he was for a guaranteed minimum income.
A guaranteed minimum income.
In his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, MLK was talking about a policy where people living in the United States, specifically poor people, would be guaranteed a minimum amount of income to live on. The solution to poverty is to abolish it directly by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income. Again, MLK's plan was for the government to give money to the poor to help them out of poverty. If you legitimately believe that Dr. King would be for a plan that also gives money to the middle class and the 1%, primarily to help stimulate the economy, you'd be very mistaken. And regardless of what Yang and the Yang Gang says, Thomas Paine had nothing to do with setting up the American federal government and wasn't technically a founding father, sorry.
Let me tell you why we need to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit.
Actually, if you ask a Detroit auto worker, they will tell you that it's less to do with automation and more to do with car companies moving their factories and jobs to Mexico, where the labor is non-unionized and cheaper.
How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying 0 in taxes while doing it.
Okay, let's pause for a minute. That is a lie. While Amazon paid 0 in federal taxes for 2018, it paid plenty in state and local taxes, as well as payroll taxes for its over 300,000 American employees. Not to mention that purchases on Amazon result in billions of dollars in sales tax for the states to collect it. And when companies get tax breaks, it's supposed to be an incentive for them to reinvest and create jobs. Amazon largely pays no corporate tax because it has invested over $160 billion into its operations and has been creating hundreds of thousands of jobs.
We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right now, and the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. So let me share the math. $1,000 a month for every adult would be $461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is a central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
This is Andrew Yang's entire opening statement, which, for the record, I just played in its entirety. I would like to point out that while he posed the question, how do we pay for it, he neglected to actually explain how to pay for it. They must have turned his mic off before he had the chance to say it. But maybe we can find the answer in the comments. So actually, if Amazon does pay $800 billion in federal taxes, then actually that is pretty close to the $1.7 trillion it would take to pay for it. Let me see if I can understand this. Amazon, who had around $232 billion in sales last year and had a profit of $11 billion, should be paying $800 billion in taxes? I thought Yang Gang was supposed to be good at math or something. Andrew Yang is by far the best candidate. He can explain how to pay for it. But when it comes to explaining it from a debate stage to an audience of tens of millions of people, not so much. Look, Yang Gang knows Yang's policy inside and out. Or at least they think they do. And they have already decided who they are going to vote for. So when Yang is on the debate stage making his case, it's not for them. It's for people like this.
Good morning, Mr. Wang. Thank you for bringing your interesting proposals to us here in New Hampshire.
That woman was in the same room as Andrew Yang and didn't even know his name. And while Yang Gang wants to get the bag, it seems like most Democrats either don't know who he is or are just writing him off. Because according to Real Clear Politics, Yang's current polling average is 1.3%. And this is after 2 debates, months of campaigning, and countless media appearances. If we're talking about polling, Donald Trump was polling at 1% during early debates. Right. For clarity, the first Republican presidential debate of the 2016 cycle was on August 6, 2015. And on that day, Trump was polling at 24.3%. And after the first debate, Trump dominated over every other Republican candidate in the polls and was never below 22%. In comparison, since the first Democratic presidential debate, Andrew Yang's polling average has never been higher than 2%, largely because he's just not a very good candidate. For example, when asked what his first priority would be when becoming president, this is how he responded.
I would pass a $1,000 freedom dividend for every American adult starting at age 18, which would speed us up on climate change, because if you get the boot off of people's throats, they'll focus on climate change much more clearly.
So giving everyone $1,000 a month is the solution to getting Americans to accept and do something about climate change. But in the second debate,
the last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in recorded history. This is going to be a tough truth, but we are too late. We are 10 years too late. We need to do everything we can to start moving the climate in the right direction, but we also need to start moving our people to higher ground. And the best way to do that is to put economic resources into your hands so you can protect yourself and your families.
Guys, we're 10 years too late, but don't worry, here's $1,000 a month and then you can afford to move to higher ground.
I want to share a story that a prison guard, a corrections officer in New Hampshire said to me. He said, we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're behind bars. Right now, we think we're saving money. We just end up spending the money in much more dark and punitive ways. We should put money directly into people's hands, certainly when they come out of prison, but before they go to prison.
Thank you, Mr. Yang.
Look at the disappointment in Yang's face. He ran out of time and couldn't connect his anecdote to the freedom dividend by ending it with something like, that is why everyone should get $1,000 a month because it will help keep them out of jail. Anyway, let's read some more comments. Don't Walk Run is another political hack taking money from corporate donors. Man, I wish I was making that kind of money. This guy has a punchable face, LOL, and voice. Someone sock him in the voice box and fix his eyes. Hi, Mom. Lastly, in this video, I said that Andrew Yang calling Amazon a $1 trillion company was incorrect, as its market cap was, at the time and still is, below $1 trillion. To say Amazon is not a $1 trillion company is intellectually dishonest and based on ignorance of the financial markets. Amazon's valuation is currently fluctuating at around $990 billion. Amazon has been over the $1 trillion mark on numerous occasions. Amazon reached a market cap of over $1 trillion once. So stop being intellectually dishonest. To not call Amazon a $1 trillion company is nitpicking. They will be $1 trillion in a matter of months.
Are you sure about that?
As of the date of this video being published, Amazon's market cap is at $894 billion. Technically, if a company's market cap is below $1 trillion, it is not a $1 trillion company. Sorry for being factually correct. And that brings us to New Progressive Voice, who responded to one of my videos. Let's take a look.
It's difficult to do if you have companies like Amazon, trillion-dollar tech companies paying literally zero in taxes while they're closing 30% of our stores.
First off, Amazon is not a $1 trillion tech company. In fact, as of July 2019, Microsoft is the only American company that has a market cap of over $1 trillion.
This is extremely pedantic and makes no point about Andrew Yang's actual policies. And he's not doing any research beyond just the debate. Then that's not what you call true analysis. That's just coming in with bias and nitpicking over, being pedantic.
So much for an intelligent video response. Thanks for watching, sharing, and hitting that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And be sure to check out the links in the description and check out these videos that you may have missed. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next time.